Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. So today we're going to do something a little bit experimental, hopefully sort of fun and also sort of serious as well, because I've done a few readings, pick a card readings, are like a visit to a medium, a visit to a fortune teller. What I felt is I wanted to almost create a scenario where you almost as a magical or spiritual initiate are visiting a group of oracular powers, like people who can do astrology, people who read cards, people who read crystal balls, all of that sort of thing. And it's sort of partly to give you messages that you need for the next stage on your journey. And they could be very connected, or they could be quite different. Like it's like if we're going to almost imagine a group of different readers and different energies talking to you here. So we could get very diverse sort of messages, or we may get ones that are more, as I say, connected. But that's the first half of it. And then we're going to have a look at them bringing forward primordial entities, beings, spirits, guardians, whatever you want to call them, to you. Bring forward three of those and a gift that they bring you, and then how that then comes together as the magical, spiritual, evolved you. So that's it's meant to be very occultic and very mysterious and hopefully fascinating. It will be positive. It's only of the light. Nothing sort of dark involved in this, but we're going to use different modalities to do it. So we'll use fortune cards, we'll use a crystal ball, we'll use tokens, we'll use tarot, of course, we'll use Lenormand, all sorts of different things, oracle decks. So hopefully it will be fun. Obviously, the main thing you've got to do to start off with is choose your deck or choose your pile. So I've used Madame Endora's fortune cards. I thought they were a really good way in as a first part of the message and energy that is going to be discussed with you. And we're going to be imagining at first that you go into sort of someone who is a very old-fashioned fortune teller type. They kind of lead the discussion and open the discussion for the group. And these cards are meant to show something that they will talk to you about. And there will be some other cards that are underneath these that I don't know what they are at this point, just intuitively chosen to give the sort of like range of information that first person in this group wants to talk to you about. So this may help you choose your pile. You can, of course, choose more than one if you would like. There's no problem with that at all. Or you may always go to pile 3, in which case go to pile 3. That's perfectly fine too. But this is a bit of a doorway in to what will be discussed. So for pile number 1, we have the chalice, rejuvenation and fulfillment. For pile number 2, we have the sun, your perseverance is rewarded. And for pile number 3, we have the spider, be meticulous and patient, which is very intriguing. So if you are drawn to one in particular or a number of them, that's fine, whatever works for you. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps, as always, are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you came to the chalice. You have along with it the trailblazer. I'm just putting my hand there so it's a bit clearer with the light. There's a little bit of glare. I'm sorry about that. And then here, the future. So I think the first thing that the fortune teller says is you've come at exactly the right time. There is something about you that is of the future. It's very interesting. This person's holding a crystal ball. So I think for this pile, it'll be very important what we see when we use the crystal ball. But you can see the future. Part of what you are is a bit of a prophet, a bit of a oracular person yourself. So I think there's almost a kind of, this person belongs with us, that this group welcomes you with. But I feel like there's something here about taking something forward and bringing nourishment, emotion, heart to the future. Because what I feel when I saw the chalice, whenever I see the chalice, it's a bit like quite often when I see the Ace of Cups, I think of the Holy Grail, of the Arthurian legends. And so that was about rejuvenation and fulfillment for the land. So the purpose of finding the Holy Grail was to replenish the land. That was why it was the Arthurian overarching spiritual aim. It was for the land, for the future. So I think there's something here about you bringing that kind of rejuvenation, that kind of clarity, that kind of spiritual or emotional resonance, because it could be either. You think about the chalice holding water, wine, holy water, any of those sorts of things. And it's interesting that, in the sense that we're using the Fata Morgana deck here, so that it has the feeling of being in the desert, but this trailblazer is coming through the desert, bringing people along with them, which makes me think of finding the water, finding the grail, finding the oasis in the desert, finding the place where the future can be born. So I think that the first message about this is that you are meant to lead out on something. You're meant to bring something in that will help the future, that is seeding into the future. This could be anything from a new project creatively, a new business, a new relationship that establishes a family, a child, or something that you're doing on a social or political or spiritual level for others that is about rejuvenation and replenishment. I think it would also be saying to you that the messages that you're going to receive in this reading from this group of oracles have to do with your place in the future, but also understanding your past. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One is because I feel when I see the rejuvenation and fulfillment, there is almost a logical few steps before that, which are the steps where maybe there was difficulty, battle, going through the desert, the exodus, that kind of energy, looking for the promised land, whatever kind of metaphors you want to use. But for a need for rejuvenation and fulfillment means that there has to have been a lack of it before. That's number one. But number two, someone who is able to read the future, this group would say to you, a large chunk of being able to do that is not just getting the visions or the messages or the various clear senses or whatever it might be. It's actually understanding the past and understanding, I think, human nature, spiritual nature, so that you can see this in a continuum almost of a narrative. So you need to be able to understand the past to see the future with any degree of accuracy. You need to understand what was lacking to rejuvenate what is necessary. So I think that the fortune teller is saying to you, you are like me, you can do this, but you will have a particular goal. And you may or may not be aware of what that goal is. You may have it in a sense that it's very much like a spiritual underpinning. You can feel it like something under your skin, or you may have a very clear idea about what it is and what you want to do and what you want to fulfill in your life. But you are leading it into the future, and you are leading it there without necessarily knowing what it's leading you to. So she says, let's just get a little bit of information on each aspect just to see if we can bring that together and understand it a bit better. So the rejuvenation and the fulfillment. And this may differ from reading to reading if you do go to more than one. I'm just going to go with what I feel the fortune teller would do with this information, whether it's all part of a singular narrative, which I think it is, the lack that has been fulfilled, the journey, and then the future that's being established. So I think it goes in that kind of order, but in other readings it may be something else. But I feel at this point she would want to look at each of these first. So around the chalice, I think she first of all would want to look at what was the difficulty that you are seeking to heal in a way, and then what would fulfillment look like. So what is the difficulty for you? Page of Cups reversed, the Ten of Pentacles, the Queen of Cups. Okay. This has a lot to do with emotional authenticity, a lot to do with love and the heart. So this is very much, she would say this is about something that is close to the heart. This is something that's very emotional. This is very personal too. For some of you, it could be in business. It could be that you've built a lot for yourself, but you don't feel that your heart is in it. But for others, I feel like there's like almost a legacy of family, community, or whatever, where you think that the heart, the emotion, the emotional authenticity has been leached out. So again, if you think about what I was saying about the Arthurian legends, King Arthur falls ill because the land is falling to illness when things are moving away from the ideal. So I think that there's something of value here, and it is saying the future is built on something of value in the past. And as I say, this could be for some of you, it could be about sort of family traditions, but you've got to now work out what your future is, separate to that, without necessarily losing the heart of it. Or it could be sort of something that is meant to last, is meant to be an edifice, but at the moment has strayed from the heart. So what does she think is the nature of the rejuvenation that this message is talking about for you? The Sun reversed. Now that's interesting. Some of you may be drawn to the Sun card, the second pile as well, if that's the case. I'm not trying to force you to do it, only if you feel drawn to it, but that could be an indication that there's almost a part two to this sitting there. And the Queen of Swords reversed. Okay, you have been highly critical of chasing your future. she says. You underestimate your own ability in this space, and you have tried to be scientific, you've tried to be material, you've tried to be evidence-based, but as a part of that, you've shut off your heart. Now, whether or not that's because it was not approved of, it could be that there's a very critical person in your environment, possibly in your family or in a workplace. But I think a lot of this is about you haven't followed the sun. You maybe have been worried about the sun, because the next step here to do this is to go on the exodus in the desert-like feeling. You've got to be prepared to go into the sun to find the future. So claiming what is yours, claiming your capacity and starting to trust it, because she says you do know the future. You do know what is required here. You just have to have the courage to do it. But something's drawn you away from it. And it could be an internal self-critique, putting yourself down, or it could have been that around you, or that you feel like, yes, I can have this sense of this wildly romantic, spiritual or emotional thing, but it just, how can I believe in that? How can that be realistic in this world? And yet you're meant to be the trailblazer that creates that into this world. So let's see what the journey is meant to be for you. Let's see. She says, okay, if you take this on, and you should because you are equipped to do it, what kind of journey are we talking about here? Eight of Cups reverse, leaving behind old patterns that aren't working anymore. Queen of Pentacles, creating your material outcome that you want and being very dedicated to it. Four of Wands reverse, even where other people don't agree. So one of the things about being a trailblazer, even though this is indicating leading people, and you will lead people in one way or another for this as time goes on, but the initial start of it is maybe moving away from those things that held you back, where you were with the wrong people, the wrong situation. You're meant to create your own dynasty, your own business, whatever this is about. And so you have to be prepared to be alone at first, to be dedicated to the cause, to bring in and to have others follow you who actually then can align with the cause. It's almost as though you have all these abilities to know what the future is, all of that kind of thing, but it's like you really doubted it in yourself, and you've really tried to fit in with the more conventional world. And you've got to kind of let go of that and those sort of allegiances to find the true allegiance. And she says then you open up your oracular ability. So what is that supposed to be pointing you towards? Page of Swords, communicating a new idea, communicating something new. Nine of Cups, communicating the dream, achieving the dream, achieving the wish. Three of Swords, and healing the land. So there is a very strong energy here, like the Arthurian legends. It doesn't mean you're literally King Arthur come back, or the knight that found the Holy Grail. It's not about that. It's about using that as an allegory. Once you start to communicate what you see of the future, you will draw the right people to you. You will draw your wish to you. And the pain that you expect to come from owning that part of you will not come. In fact, this is the release from the pain. It's almost as though you've been kind of like hedging your bets, or trying to live up to other people's ideas about what was success, or what was valid, or what was believable. You may be in a situation where you have a very different view to something than people around you, how to do the work, what the politics are, what your family believes about what you should do with your life, whatever it might be. This is about claiming that, because you have a very strong sense, a healing. You're an internal healer, and you're an internal prophet. And it's important, she says, to be able to understand that. So she says, okay, I've done my bit. Let's bring in the person who can read the crystal ball. So let's just see what the crystal ball is showing us about you. First thing that it shows is a very ancient guide. There's a very ancient guide watching you. Now, we will be talking later about some primordial energies that can come through, but there is a very old guide that is watching you. And I feel almost like, just to pick up, even though it doesn't look exactly like what we would think of as Merlin, I think it's a similar sort of energy to that, because I think it's just following through the Arthurian legend. So you are being guided. You are being given information that you need. Okay, I see a bull. Okay, this could be sort of someone that is Taurian. You may have Taurus associated with your chart in some way, or it could be that part of this is to define what the good life is for you, because Taurians want to have the good life. They want to establish the status and the position in society and in life that they feel they deserve, and you do deserve more than you're actually seeing for yourself. But it could also be a Taurian influence coming in, or it could be that key things happen in the Taurus season in any given year for you. There's a seahorse as well. So a seahorse is an interesting symbol to occur in a crystal ball. I think that, or in anything really, because it is an actual thing in reality. There is such a thing as a seahorse, but it in the way that it looks and the way that it operates, it seems so unlikely in some way because it's an amalgamation of like the concept of horse energy with the energy of the sea. So something that's very much on land and something that's very much in the sea. I think it's interesting too because it's the head of the seahorse. I don't see the full body. I think this is trying to say that you have to go within the water, within the depths to get to that. You are meant to be this very unique, beautiful, special amalgamation of the material and also the emotional as well. There's a lighthouse sitting on a hill. Now this could relate to this, but I think that the crystal ball reader is going to say, like, I'm seeing things that aren't just about this key message. I'm seeing other things. There will be a signal to you. A signal to you that is like light, that is like electricity. It's interesting the Page of Swords turns up there for you connecting in. You may actually pick up a lot of psychic energy and psychic symbols through the methods of communication and through using things like AI and that kind of thing may actually be something in terms of connecting to the future for you. But it feels as though there is going to be a particular point where there's a flash of light to show you a particular thing you need to do. And I think that the crystal ball reader is saying it's kind of connected to this, but it's not. There's a very specific thing coming up to pay attention to. So keep an eye out for what feels like an electric aha moment or something that seems to be like a sign, like anything electric, like, like you see a flashing light, like the go sign, to cross a road or something. Is there something key that you're thinking of at a point where that comes up almost unexpectedly? Something like that is going to be sent to you as a sign. And there's a trident. Okay, so Poseidon. Again, the sea. A lot of this has to do with the sea. Lighthouses are above the sea. I think that there's something here. I actually think it's calling on you to go towards bodies of water. Be where you can around bodies of water because there's a sort of a weird thing with you between electricity and water. And I mean, they don't naturally mix. Like it's not, again, like the seahorse, the horse's head and then the sea, the aquatic body. They don't naturally mix. I mean, you obviously do not want water around electricity per se, so, don't go trying to mix those. But I feel as though there's something about being around water which is going to be very inspirational to you and bring in things that are very important in terms of like spiritual messages, but also just in terms of life. Yeah, and then I see a dragon rising out of the sea. Well, I think there's something about finding your own power in the sea. So I think the crystal ball reader is saying that this is all true, but pay attention. There's water in the chalice is what matters here. I think I can see that the fortune teller and the crystal ball reader talking to each other and going, yes, it's like there is a clue that has to do with bodies of water as well, being around water, traveling to coastal towns for a holiday, spending time, going swimming each day. There's something that brings a lot of this together, brings an aha moment, maybe brings an important Taurian energy into your life as well. So the crystal ball reader says, okay, let's also use tokens. So she also has tokens. So let's see what we get with that as well in terms of are there any other specific messages connected to this or more generally that you need to know about at the moment. Okay, the first thing I'm drawn to is what appears to be the steering wheel of a ship. Like there's a very consistent thing. I don't know whether people who are coming to this reading, a lot of you are very strong water signs. That's a possibility. Or as I say, there's something about water, something about steering your own way. We have an apple. Now that could be opportunity, something new, but it could also be temptation. Well, let's just sort of see what the actual booklet says around that. Yeah, health, forbidden fruit, knowledge. There is definitely knowledge coming to you, and you will be steered with the right knowledge, but it does feel very occulted. Like, I think this whole reading is meant to be quite occulted. And when we talk about the occult, we're not talking about anything dark. We're talking about things that are hidden. We're talking about knowledge that only comes to those when they're ready. So I feel like you're being steered towards knowledge with a bat. That's an interesting symbol. This particular oracle talks about a bat in terms of death and rebirth. So I don't think this isn't about you dying, obviously, but I think it's about being reborn, rejuvenation again. You'll be steered towards the knowledge. It's like, but it is a bit like an initiation, I have to say. So for some of you, that might be very literally something that happens around some spiritual stuff with you. We've got a whale as well. This is big, fortunate. So big, fortunate, but like creatures and a horse. Look at that, and a horse. So it's creatures of the land and creatures of water. It's somehow the connection of the two. You're meant to materialize something, but you've got to access the water energy, the emotional energy to get there. There is a bit of either a danger or a risk associated with this, or possibly a risk with a bomb here of the things of not doing what you need, or of the things mismatching. Just like I was saying, like, oh, I was talking about electricity and water, and you wouldn't really want to put the two of those things together. But it's kind of like there's a risk in not doing it, but there's a risk, there's always a risk in putting electricity and water together. Don't do that. But on an allegorical level, there's a timing, there's a ticking time thing around this. It's coming soon, and it's important not to let that pass by. Gemini is also important. You could have Gemini strong in your chart, or Gemini, just like Taurus, is important. I think that is Holly, so it could be pointing towards things like Christmas time. Let me just see what the book says. Yeah, protection, divinity, Christmas season. Christmas season could be important, but you are protected. I saw that in the crystal ball. There's some very, very ancient guide that watches over you. And then we've got what looks like a beach holiday. I think they're going to be saying to you, if you can, get away to a beachside resort, get away to a coastal town, spend some time at a swimming pool. There's something about connecting these two things that it brings the aha moment. And you mightn't have a lot of time to do it, but you need to make the time, because this is an initiatory process. There's something like that going on for you. It's very mysterious, actually. You're an interesting group to read for, and I think they would find you very interesting as well. So I say, well, let's try and get a little bit more information around this. We've got Taurus and we've got Gemini. What other astrology? So an astrologer in the group steps forward and says, okay, let's have a look at some astrological influences that are on you at the moment. Uranus in the 8th house in Scorpio. Yeah, there is something. This group, I've got to say, this visit, if you had a visit like this, it would be for you to understand that you are someone of the occult, you are someone of the prophet class, of the priestly class, of something like that. It's a big aha moment with Uranus, but it's about karma, it's about who you are here to be, it's about the death and rebirth cycle to rejuvenate, just as the chalice talks about. It's about coming into your sense of magicianship. Now, this talks about Uranus in the 8th house is also past life memories of abandonment. So it may be pointing, the astrologer might say, one of the reasons that you're here and you're looking for the material proof all the time is that you were abandoned in a past life, or you felt abandoned in a past life. But part of this was because you were different, just as prophets often are. There's that thing that a prophet is not honoured in their own land. So owning your ability, owning your inspiration and understanding it will help you, rather than being caught in the sense of, I've just got to kind of fit in, rather than rocking the boat, because there's a time now for your vision. It's meant to come through, so you need to understand that about yourself. The astrologer also says your North Node energy is in the 6th house of Virgo. So yes, you are meant to make a material outcome out of this, and you are meant to be in service to others, but you need to focus on the future, focus on that connection, focus on bringing the opposites together, and focus on the future rather than focus on the past. But it is about integration with Virgo. It's about the service to others. You are here to help others. You are here to heal the land. That's what you're meant to do. If you only think small and you just fit in with others and don't own up to your own oracular ability, then you will do less than what you were really brought here to do. You need to be focused on understanding that. Then the astrologer says, we have Saturn in the 4th house. Yeah, there's something about family. Family karma, generational karma, ancestral karma, the underpinnings of what your family believed in. And it says on an emotional island. And we've got this here. It's like you need to go to where it brings it all together for you. There is a sense here that you may have felt a little bit detached, or even like the oldest in your family, even if you were the youngest, there's a kind of a sense of, do I even really fit in here? And you're kind of being forced into doing this because there's some karma probably that you are processing through with family members, but equally you're meant to now own your own future and believe in your own future, and you've got to reconnect to, Cancer, to the emotional side, the water side. And astrology also says Moon in the 7th house in Libra, eager for reciprocation. You want to have good relationships with people. And you want to have a give-give scenario. It's maybe the way that your family or others around you who have a family-like aspect to them have controlled you a bit, because you give a lot. But this is meant to be a give and take. And you do want emotional connections and emotional love. But I think that you've kind of put it to the side and focused on other things. For some of you, this astrologer is saying you are very spiritual, you are very prophetic, but the only way that you can actually bring things like love in and feel like you could find your person is to decide to ask for something back and to be true to who you are, because there's some patterns that have been inbred in you that are not accurate of you and that are keeping you small, when in fact there's so much more you could do. So the group look at each other and go, that's very interesting. There's a lot here that you're meant to do. Let's now draw in the primordial guardians and guides. So we're just going to draw 3. We're going to see who they are and what they govern and where you're being brought guidance. And then we're going to see what gifts they bring you. So we have Amenzu, Luithia. Sorry about the glare. Try and move that a bit so you can see it a bit better. And Zephion. So the interesting energy here is that 2 of these are moon energies. One is Neptune. 2 are moon deities, and they are trickster energy. And I think, in fact, Zephion here is picking up both what needs to be rejuvenated. So Zephion is here to force the importance of this. Zephion's very much connected to this ticking time bomb, because of the 2, he is a dark trickster, and he says that there are problems that need to be solved. So he is here to get you to move towards solving those problems and seeing them, not thinking that it's okay. Playing safe for you, Pole 1, is not the right thing to do. Owning your power and remembering who you are, which we'll get to with Luithia, because that's the main thing that she talks about, is what you're meant to do. But once you've accepted that, yes, there is a problem here that you have to solve, and you have the ability to do it, and you can lead others towards, but you cannot stay still in what you're doing. You need to use your abilities and own those abilities to do it. Amenzu can bring in love and connection. He's actually a god of fertility and sensuality. So it could be there's an energy coming in that is a powerful relationship, if you're not actually in one at the moment, that has an air of danger and trickster energy about it. But this is to bring you to a level similar to yourself. And Amenzu is while Zephon does warn of a danger that you need to be aware of, and I think it's the danger of procrastination for you and not moving into the future. Amenzu can bring in a future that is fun and allows you to lighten up a bit and allows you to own and play with your abilities. Because Luitha, which is Neptune, which is very psychic and spiritual, she is about death and rebirth. She is about initiation. She is about karma. She is about understanding your past, which this is talked about as well with Uranus in the 8th house. But she's primarily about remembering who you are. So this meeting with this group for you is about remembering who you are so that you can create the future. And I think in the process, have a bit of fun and lighten up a bit, which is important. So what are the gifts? What is the gift first? Let's go to Zephon first, because I think that kind of connects to what you're trying to rejuvenate. What gift is Zephon bringing you? The spiritual arts, artist, designer, singer, sculptor. Okay, I think what Zephon is saying is that out of chaos comes creativity, because he is an energy of chaos. Out of what has happened can be the creative spark that brings in the future. Don't see the problems of the past as limiting you. See them as clearing everything out, much as the Tower card will do, to bring forward the future, and then use your spiritual ability to create the future that you want. So then Amenzu, what gift does this sensual being of the moon bring to you? Dark night of the soul, path of initiation. You're being initiated. There's no two ways about it. This is a very occulted group, as I say. So there's something about this is about initiation, but it feels like it's initiation into something that brings you into your power in a much more vital and happier and much more emotionally resonant way. He will help you through the dark night of the soul too. If you feel that Zephon has taken you into it and has given you the art to come out of it, the kind of dance of sensuality and being in your body and being in your life can actually take you through that. So then, what does Luithia bring you? What does she want you to remember about yourself? Astral projection, out of the body experience. Yeah, she says you can come into the liminal. You can see the future because you can be in the liminal. You can actually directly connect with her as well. You're able to do this, and being aware that you can project yourself into the future and see the possibilities. So you take the risk out of it, and you can help create the future by seeing the future. Very, very powerful messages. Okay, so to finish off, what magic are they seeing arising in you? A lot by the looks of things, but because I think this whole reading has been about magic arising actually, but what magic does this group of oracular agents see arising in you? Okay, doable. The key is within your grasp. They see that you are able to do this. They see that you are ready. They see that you have the ability to be the trailblazer into the future, to rejuvenate the land, to rejuvenate your life, to move away from a limited view of yourself and move into who you really are. Wow. I mean, I kind of intended this to be an interesting and sort of spooky and an occulted sort of reading, but you as a group are very much that. And it was a message I think you were meant to hear. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you enter the room to meet with the oracles, and the first that steps forward is the fortune teller, the one that will work with these sort of decks and tarot to set the scene of the messages that are coming to you. You came to the reading with the sun. That talks about perseverance being rewarded in terms of this particular deck and this particular system. The sun also, to me, could indicate something about your sun sign, your life path. The sun in tarot is optimism and so forth. So there's an overall optimistic energy to this that you are going to be hearing about. And certainly one of the energies here is abundance. So I'm trying to hold that so that light, so that you can see. The light here is a bit glary. So you are going to get a reward from persistence, but these things may be a little bit separate. I feel almost as though this may be a goal. There might be two goals here, and I feel as though you may have to sacrifice one for the other. And the reason I say that is we've got the crown, but it's reversed. So it's almost as though you will succeed in something in your life path that you were wanting to do right now. That will happen, but it's almost as though it may be that the best way to do it is either appear not to win or not need to be crowned the victor. It's almost like a sustainable thing and one that does require persistence. So I feel like the fortune teller is saying there's something in your life, whether it's in your career, whether it's love or something, but it's probably more likely career, life path, that kind of thing, that is going to be very successful. It may take a little bit of time to get there. You may need to persevere, but you are going to be abundant. Like abundance is coming through for you. You're going to be successful. There's very strong yellow tones here too. So solar plexus, very powerful, and also orange tones. So the sacral chakra, creativity and so forth. So that's going to happen. But it does appear like you might almost have a kind of primal choice that you have to make in what that means. Your perseverance could, I feel like these are two pathways. And so therefore you have to choose between them. One has to be sacrificed. To turn the crown around, you may have to be less focused on abundance and the outcome and more on power. To have the abundance, you may need to relinquish power or status or something like that. It doesn't mean you're going to lack success, but it's like there is something in what is before you that kind of can't have both. That's what I feel this is saying. So I said in the first reading that I feel like the fortune teller will do different things with the tarot depending upon what is being seen here. So I just want to get a couple of cards for what are you trying to persevere with? And I'm going to ask a yes/no question to see whether or not this is something that would perseverance in either place would actually work out, or whether we're looking at two different issues that we're looking at, that they're trying to talk about. So firstly, just a little bit more about the perseverance, the sun energy. What is that about for you? Three of Pentacles reversed, Ace of Cups reversed. There is part of what is going on, the fortune teller is going to say, is that you are going to be successful. That's not in dispute. You are, whether it's through abundance or through status, or you are going to do that, but there is a cost, and I think there is a cost to this, and this is why the crown is reversed. I think that it's saying that the choice of the crown, I feel like that is almost drawing you a bit more. The abundance would be the outcome of the crown, takes you away from others. I keep thinking of the saying that heavy is the head that wears the crown. There is a certain isolating energy in being the boss in that kind of thing. This doesn't mean you can't be successful or a leader in your career or anything like that, but there is something coming up where you're pursuing a particular life path, a certain ambition, and there is a point at which you have to define what abundance is and define what success is, because it's one comes at the cost of the other. And I just feel that it's like if you become, the king or the queen, you're on your own, and therefore some of the enjoyment of it, even if you can have abundance like materially, you're not necessarily getting the full abundance of what it is that you would have wanted emotionally. So I feel like there's a interplay of knowing the value of what you're going for. And if you do go for that, you need to be prepared to say, okay, this is not about wealth. This is about I have a sense of destiny, and I feel like I have to wear that crown, and I've got to make the decision to turn that around and wear the crown. So depending upon who's coming to this reading, you may or may not want to veer between one or the other, but we're just going to explore each of them. But firstly, I want to ask is the sun talking about anything that is distinctly different to these two things? I think they're connected, but is this something else as well? I have a system with yes, no. So Ace to 10 of Wands and Cups and all major arcana are yes. Ace to 10 of Swords and Pentacles and all court cards are no. But if the court cards are Cups or Wands and they're reversed, it's too close to call. Sometimes I think the same about the major arcana, but it would very much depend on the question that we're asking now. So are we looking at the sun as covering anything other than the choice between abundance in its fullest sense and power in its fullest sense? Is there something more than that, or is the sun really pointing to finding the right life path there? So is there more to the sun than that? 10 of Wands, yes, there is. Some of it actually, I think it's connected, but it's also saying you're carrying a lot at the moment. So you can't necessarily carry both, so that's part of it. But it is saying it's more. So I just want to get 3 more cards for what else the sun is about. Then we're going to do 3 cards for each of these, just so that you can start to assess what is the more important thing for you at the moment. The abundance, or being the leader, being the king, being the queen, that kind of thing. But firstly, what else is going on with the sun about this? Five of Swords, Page of Swords, Queen of Wands. Okay. You are meant to be a king or queen in the sense of being seen as very creative, being very clever, all of those sort of things. It's not like you have to be completely in the shadows. You're not meant to be in the shadows. And part of your life path is to stand out creatively and to speak your truth. But there will be some battles that are worth it and some battles that aren't. Now, that could connect to some of this. It may be quite separate, but as an overarching motif in where your perseverance will work and where your life path is, you need to know when to walk away from a dispute or from people who can't hear what you have to say or understand what you're doing. So that's a kind of part of this as well too. So in making a choice between just being wealthy, abundant, or being powerful, powerful could be wonderful if it is doing something that is going to express what you're trying to express, connect to your heart and all that kind of thing. You may be able to have a very big canvas to do that. On the other hand, if the only way to be powerful is to not speak your truth, then it's better to walk away from it. Money can be great, but if that is at the expense of your authenticity, it's not going to work out. So I think there's a bigger issue here where you are meant to shine and show and be seen. And that's also why we've got the sun. That's another thing that the sun is sort of representative of. But this is the guidance for you in general, is walk away from that which does not let you express your true self. So let's just see what is on the side of abundance in terms of fortune for you. What is on the side of the crown at the moment reversed? And the crown reversed, I think it's tilting towards that is the more tricky of the two, but it isn't absolutely that. It's just getting you to think about the cost of power, I think. So the abundance energy. We have the Ace of Pentacles, the Seven of Pentacles, and the Page of Wands. Abundance will grow. There is something, there is a blessing here for you. It will grow, and your creative expression, it will take you from there to there. So just focusing on how do I create in the material world the abundance that I want is going to work for you. It may sometimes feel it's limiting you though. So this is the interesting thing for you. You could be both abundant and a leader, in that kind of a way. And it's sort of like, but this is saying you can't really do both because it's not always going to be, or it could be that you lose a lot if you do both. So there's a real apocryphal, like Wisdom of Solomon type thing going on here for you. But you definitely can do it. It may not fully express all that you do. You may not be as seen as you would like to be seen, but you definitely can go the abundance line and still express a fair amount of what you want. What about if you go for the being seen, winning, being the leader, being the boss, being the king or queen, that kind of energy? Strength reversed, the Hermit, Eight of Swords reversed. Yeah, I think that it's isolating. I think this is all it's really saying. It's like if you have to win, it's isolating. If you have to be the boss, if you have to be seen, if you have to win, if you have to be the number one all the time, it actually takes of your strength. Your strength to create and be and manifest is more in just focusing on the outcome rather than the status of it. If you do this, you will isolate yourself from others, and you may feel that you've got yourself in a mental trap that you need to get out of. So I do think that the fortune teller is saying, like, just on the face of it, you could do both, but you're going to be very much alone if you do both. You could do the abundance and still stay connected to others. But if you do choose this, do understand the implications of being number one. So that's an interesting message overall. So she steps back and she says, let's get the crystal ball reader to see what they see for you. Now, this may be connected to this message or it may be other things entirely. So let's see what we get for you. I see a really strangely built tower. It sort of looks like it shouldn't stand, but it does stand. A bit like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but it goes in different directions. I think that is pointing to some sort of edifice that you could create that is very unique and that does have its own internal logic, but that others may not understand that well. which is fine, but just knowing that it looks like it defies gravity in a way. Actually, I'm getting there's a musical, I think it's Wicked, that has a song called Defying Gravity, so listen to that. Because I think that might have a message for you. There's a rocket, so you're ready to launch into something. So there's also what looks a bit like in our chemical labs, the sort of like the various vestibules that and containers that things were sort of dealt with in those very ancient laboratories. And I feel like it looks as though there are elements that are being put within to be sort of brought or purified in the way that alchemy does it. And above that, I see really large, what looks like, what's the name? It's stingrays, I think. The aquatic animals that have really, really long, what looks like wings along, that go sort of horizontal to their bodies. They kind of look like kind of bats of the sea. So there's something about out of the purification, a stingray. There's a sting. This is a message. There's a message to you here about understanding choice. And now I see two mountains. There are two mountains, but they're separate. It's like there is a way through. There is maybe a balancing thing where you could have a bit of both. That is something that you could think of. But to reach the height on either, you have to choose between the two. This is definitely coming through as a very strong message. And it's not that one is wrong. This is not necessarily wrong. I want to make that point. It's just understanding the cost of each. The cost of this is maybe not being seen, not being sort of seen as the greatest of all time, for instance, even though you may very well be. The cost of this one is the loneliness of being the greatest of all time. There's a woman who's looking out from the bottom of a window. It's like she feels as though she has to be very careful in and whether she's seen or not. So I feel like this is maybe suggesting, I mean, you don't have to be a woman for this, but there might be something almost a bit surreptitious. You're watching something without wanting to be seen at the moment. That's probably not a bad thing. It's keeping your head down till you know what you want to do. Or it could be that someone's watching you and they're trying to sort of just stay out of view. So it could be a very separate message about being aware someone is watching what you're doing. It could be a competitor. It could be a secret admirer. Thought I saw sort of someone who looks a bit like a hermit again, a bit like that. So there's this sort of sense of, it might, for some of you, it might suit you to be a little bit separated out from others. If that's the case, that's fine. I just think though that like think about the impact for your heart on that. Like, are you going to find the love that you would want to find as well, if that's the case? And I see a triangle. So this could be a triangle around love. It could be that there is a third option that is somewhere in the middle, and maybe the sun is meant to be that. But as I say, I think that whatever there is a kind of a sacrifice around this. It's like you can't have it all, but you can have something really, really well, or you can have a bit of both. You've got to decide what's going to work with you there. So the crystal ball reader says, let's just get some tokens and see what they say. It's interesting. This came up for one of the others. This looks to me like a ship's steering wheel. So deciding which direction to go in is very important. And it looks quite a lot like the energy of that sun as well. So I think it's like following the sun. I think your sun sign is really important in your chart. Pay attention if you know what house it's in. That will tell you what your life path is and an area in your life you're likely to succeed at the easiest. So my sun, for instance, is in the 6th house. So when I work in service to others, it is likely to succeed better than, say, if I was trying to do something that was very 10th house, because it's in the 6th house. So pay attention to that. I think there's some steering energy your sun sign could tell you, and the aspects to your sun in your chart, if you know. We have a road leading to the tree, leading to what is your life path, the tree of life. That ultimately you have to decide a direction. This looks like a pin or something like that. I'm going to just see what that is meant to be. It's number 28 if you're interested in numbers, if that means anything to you. Yeah, a push pin, important events, milestone, get to the point. You need to get to this point to steer towards what is the best choice for you. We've got what looks like Christmas bells, so there could be something about Christmas season that's important. Yeah, and like ding, 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 ding. Like it's like there will be a point where you kind of, this is the thing. There's a certain degree of urgency about it, and Spirit is trying to bring you messages as well. Now this is interesting. This is a elephant, which is a very fortunate thing around abundance, with a light on their back, and I'm almost feeling like maybe that's what was in the crystal ball rather than a lighthouse. So I think this is about bringing abundance and bringing ability in, but it's what do you carry? And what is the way showing to make that decision? Gemini is important somehow. Some of you may have Sun in Gemini, but otherwise Gemini is important. You might meet a Gemini in person. We've got a toaster. Yeah, something's ready to pop. Something's ready to come into being. I think that's a toaster. That's what it looks like. Or maybe it's actually luggage. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to tell. So let's just have a look and see what 135 is. I thought toaster first of all, so we're going to go a bit with that because something's ready to be enjoyed. But technically, this is suitcase, indication of movement or relocation, of arrival or departure. You may need to move on from something to get towards the direction that you need to go in. The bat energy is about new beginnings, death and rebirth. So this is really being more born into what it is that you want for the most. Sagittarius is important, freedom, philosophy, and so forth. And then this might be a shark. Let's just have a look at 92. Yeah, unseen danger, predator. I think there's someone watching over you. I think there's a competitor. I think it came up in the crystal ball. They're really surreptitious. So I don't think it's you trying to sort of like not be seen. I think someone is a predator. Someone is wanting to steal the crown. Someone is wanting to take advantage of the abundance. And you may have moved away from that already, and it was the right thing to do, but you don't need to move away from everyone. But there could be something there. And this person may have Sagittarius or Gemini strongly. Interesting, they're opposites too, like astrologically. So it's possible that it's someone who's very opposite to you, but brings something very different, but is potentially a competitor, or someone who wants to have something from you. So I think there is a bit of a warning there about when you're making a decision, understanding someone's watching you. Someone's wanting to kind of work out what to do in connection with what you're choosing to do. Okay, so let's see what an astrologer would have to say. We know that there's something about Gemini and Sagittarius operating there, but let's see what an astrologer. So an astrologer in the group steps forward. They talk about Leo rising. Yeah, like you are meant to be seen in some ways. This is one of the things for you. Captivating. You're captivating. You're very attractive. You draw attention to yourself. So it may be, that may be the other thing that's hard. Some people may want to crown you and make you the figurehead or something, and you may not want to be that. That's a possibility as well. But understanding how you present yourself, and there is a side of you that does need to be seen and celebrated. It's how you balance that with your heart, with connection with others, and not like this is the apocryphal thing for somebody who becomes a celebrity or something, and then they feel like they're locked away in their house all the time. It's like there's something like that for you to come to terms with, but you are meant to be seen. So yeah, watch out for kind of stalkery energy around you as well, I would say. We have Venus in the 3rd house, Gemini. I think, yeah, you no looking back here. You're meant to move forward to something, but like, yeah, you're very there's a lot of beauty in the way that you speak and you express yourself, and very captivating on that level, and you are moving forward. Like, you're going to have one or other of these, or possibly both, but at a cost. So it's just to be aware, and people see you. People do see you. So I don't know that you entirely have the choice just to kind of go, okay, I'll just go for the abundance, thanks. It's how you kind of mediate those two energies, I think. Then we have Moon in the 7th house, eager for reciprocation. So you've got to find the right people to connect with. I do think there's a warning. There's a warning about people who want stuff from you, power, like, success by association, all that kind of thing. So you need to find those that are truly able to reciprocate with you. And it is saying that human connection is important here. Like, isolating yourself too much is not going to work all that well for you. And then we have Mars in the 9th house. Sagittarius, I know, progressive. You're progressive. You're new. You want to take things forward. You want to act, but you also want a lot of freedom. That's the other thing. If you take on the crown, if you take on a leadership role, for instance, I mean, it might be different if you take on like being the star of stage and screen, but if you take on the lead role in some way, you often aren't as free. So this is the other thing to think about. So the astrologer is saying, like, the thing that makes this tricky is you truly could be seen as that. But it's like, what's the cost of that? And you could be very successful without it. So you need to work that out. It's the thing that charismatic people have to work out. Okay, so they say, well, that's very interesting that you're dealing with that. That's a bit challenging. Let's bring you some powerful guides. So we're going to look for 3 for you, and then we're going to see what gifts they bring you. Musera, Luxurio, and Judicia. So this brings in energy of Venus, the Sun, and Mercury, which sort of makes sense with this. Makes sense we've got the Sun and that it fell in the middle there. This is actually, the more that I look at this, the more this is suggesting sort of like a kind of a celebrity. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be on the stage and screen, but Musera brings the calm and the peace and the harmony of music, like with Venus in the 3rd house, and this sort of sense of this charisma and this captivating thing. I think that you definitely would have a captivating voice, possibly a beautiful singing voice, a sense of music and harmony. You can bring harmony. That's part of it, definitely. And Judicia helps you have a sense of like balance and making things work well, and being able to make the right judicious choices, which is a large chunk of this. Because either way, with Luxuria, just what you would expect with a word that sounds a bit like luxurious, this is about wealth. This is about material success. This is about the sun. The sun is rising. So they're saying, look, you are about to be very successful. You have to choose the terms of the success. You have to understand the cost of the terms of the success. You have to understand the impact of that on your relationships and so forth. But this is a very positive time coming in. You just need to make the choices that you feel in the longer term with perseverance. What would that payoff be like? What do you want from it? So what gifts do they bring? So with Musera, what gift does she bring you spiritually to help with your choices at this point? Augur, spiritual master seer, visionary. So you're able to see the implications of things. You have an augury, you have a sense of the future. So you're able to see that. What about, let's go to Judicia and making the right choice before we end up on the life path and the sun rising. So what does Judicia bring you? Clairvoyance. Wow, yeah. Really being able to see. You're able to see this. Watch the visuals. What is in your dream. Think about what you've seen visually here. What's visually been important to you. You have that ability. This ability will help you make the right choice. The choice that is true to yourself. It's almost like you can literally envisage what either option would look like or what some sort of midway point looks like and make a really good decision. Because what gift about the sun rising and bringing in abundance is coming with Luxurio? Indigo child. So Delta generation born between 88 and 1998, so you may be born in that period of time. You don't have to be. It just simply says you have psychic abilities. Psychic abilities will help you. I don't think for most of you that this is about a material success. It's possible that your psychic abilities and the way you express those are what do it, but I don't think you have to be using psychic ability as your frontal personality for this. It's just that will help you make the right choice. Okay, so they say as a group, let's just leave you with what magic this is bringing up in you. Orenda, honor your mystical creative force. Yeah, there is something very creative in this and what you can create, because you really can create something. You can take things into the future. You can create what you want. So you will create one or other of these alternatives or some midway point. But as I say, like you kind of like don't have as much as you would get with either or, I think. You are very powerful creatively and you can really create what you want, but you do need to understand that there is, kind of a price to everything. So that's the message to you from the group of oracles. I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the spider. Be meticulous and patient. I think right from the outset, the fortune teller, which is the first of the group of oracles who want to talk to you, will say that this is a time for consideration, for taking very clear steps, for understanding the implications of each one and really checking the fine print. So there's something around the messages that are coming, which is around things will happen in good time. You can weave the web that you want to weave. You can weave the future that you want to do, but you need to be very clear. It's not a big picture time. It's a time to be very clear on the details. And a lot of that has to do, firstly, with the people that you might want to connect with, because it's hard to sort of see because of the glare, the companions reversed. This makes me think that one of the things that the fortune teller says to you is that right now, possibly some of the people that you are connecting with, whether it's in work or in love or in friendship or whatever, may not be the right people for what you're trying to achieve or what you are trying to bring into being. Either there could be a very big dissonance, and we'll explore what this is. It could be a big dissonance in belief about where you should be going or what the direction is, or it literally could be that some people you just cannot trust. So you have to be very careful. Check if you are doing something with people and in the longer term they may not be your long-term partners, but you need them for the moment. You need to check the fine print. If there are people who are providing you support or advice or whatever, check that they really know what they're doing. Check their credentials. There's something about people around you at the moment which doesn't have to be duplicitous, could just be a disconnect. We'll explore it more, but whatever it is, it's saying that you need to be careful what you do with them. We have here the Stargazer Summit, which suggests to me that you're meant to find your direction. Astrology is going to be important here, and we will have an astrologer section of this. But what are your big term dreams? What are you really aiming for? And here it's a group of people together, and there is more alignment because everybody has the star energy and everybody is looking to the stars. But equally, everybody is encapsulated in their own world. So I feel like this is the fortune teller saying to you that there's something that will come to fruition. It's a dream that you have, and you will find people you're aligned with. But even when that happens, you're each in your own world and you have a very specific part to play. It's more like with the companions here, if you look at it upright, they almost look like they're together. They're dressed in such a way that they can reach out. They're not kind of cloaked in a different way there. So it may be that at the moment it appears like you have the right people around you and people who are similar to you, but you, I think, are more important in what this is than the others. The others are a little bit further away from it. And as I say, may or may not be trustworthy. But you think it's a collegiate thing, but it's not. It is about connecting with people of a similar viewpoint or a similar aim, but you will have a very specific task within it. They will have a very specific task within it. And this is why it's very important to be clear and take it step by step and to know. This would be a very strong energy for someone who's just joined an organization and they have a lot of potential because this is really something they want, but making the right connections and not committing to anything too quickly. and looking at the big picture, but really taking steps about where do I fit in, what is my role, would work extremely well with this. But it doesn't have to be that. It could be about finding your soul family and knowing you're not quite there at the moment. So the fortune teller says, I want to use tarot around this, and I'll use it differently in each of these readings. So in this one, I actually want to look at this first, because there's something here about understanding what is the message about the companions reverse. So the first thing I want to do is get a sense about whether this is there are people you can't trust, or whether it's just that at the moment, all of this, you will find your people, but all of this is a bit of a solitary thing. You have to work in solitude. So firstly, I want to get a little bit more information, the fortune teller says, about what the companions reversed is saying. Knight of Wands reversed. Ace of Swords reversed. Yeah, this is not, you are not, Three of Cups reversed with those three companions. If this is about finding love, for instance, which could be around the Three of Cups, there's someone else who's interested in someone that you're interested in, or someone who would always be competing with you. Otherwise, as I say, if this is about a project or a workplace or something like that, there is not a lot of harmony here. And you need to slow down, because your ideas will get stalled with the people that are around you right now. What is their intent around this? Page of Swords reversed. Oh, Devil reversed. Okay. You're definitely around people you can't trust. I just wanted to get a sense, if that wasn't too heavy, it could just be that they are a difference of opinion, but that's not the case. You can't trust them. They would be likely to try and either entrap you to give what you have to them, or they'd literally kind of steal away with something that you're doing. So there's something here. If you are dealing, if you've done something creative and you're dealing with people who could potentially be agents or publishers or something like that, just check the fine print. There's something around the current environment you're saying that's not trustworthy, and it literally is not trustworthy. This is a promise that, being meticulous and patient, you're going to find your people and find your role. But there is definitely a warning here around some of the people that are around you, or that might come into your orbit when you're going towards what you want. So what is the better outcome for you? Ten of Wands reversed, Page of Wands reversed, Six of Pentacles. Okay, you are... You're meant to kind of get rid of the ego stuff. There's ego stuff around this. The battle that you're in is with ego, but what you are meant to do, and your vision and what you have, is you, and no one else can be that. So I'm saying, like, everybody in that group is a star in their own right, and like the concept of them all working together becomes like the Gestalt, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. But this is not the energy that you're in at the moment, or there's a risk that you could go into this energy if you don't think very clearly about what your role is and what you want to do with it. There's a lot of ego stuff around, but if you focus on what your value proposition is, you will find the support that you need to find. So what is the advice of the Spider around this? Like, what is the steps to be meticulous and patient? The Empress, Temperance reversed, Eight of Cups, Queen of Pentacles reversed, Page of Cups. Okay. I feel for many of you, this might be about leaving a workplace, leaving a group. It may even be about being the creative mother to your own thing, rather than trying to sort of like be connected with others who have an equal part. That you'll get to that, but not right now. There's something going on where you need to move away from some old patterns, and you may have learnt those from your mother or from a nurturing figure in your life, but it's out of balance. It's not something that you can commit to. You have to go, what is the purity of your heart? What do you really want to feel in this situation? So whatever it is, work, relationships, or whatever, there's a patterning. And I think there's an issue around women, I have to say. I think that it's most likely that if there are people not to trust, it's either women or men with a very feminine aspect. Like, there's something about that where it's just out of balance, and you need to come into that for yourself and not to commit to anything that isn't in alignment with your heart. And the only way you can do that is to be patient and really work this out. It almost makes me feel that in the group of people that you're in at the moment, there are some that you can't trust, but there are some that will ultimately gravitate over to there. And the only way that you'll find that out is taking the time to really learn who they are, what they would bring to the table, what you bring to the table, and so forth. A lot of this feels like around career or creativity or something like that, but it could be around relationships as well. So the fortune teller says that's interesting. Why don't we see what a crystal ball reader would see? So they call in the crystal ball reader from the group. I see a witch's hat, a witch in a witch's hat. There's some dark feminine energy around this, I've got to say. So it's quite powerful in its own way, but you are able to protect yourself and shield yourself and stay on course. You just have to be very aware. But they could be a bit captivating, like witchy sort of energy could be a bit captivating. There's also something like a very tall, it's either a bear or it's a very big man opening their arms to you. There is going to be a support for you, a strength for you. So it is there. It's just you need to sort of be able to recognize it. And it may even be that because you've been dealing with this issue, you may be wary of that issue. So it might be if you've been around people who you couldn't trust, when there's someone who you actually could trust, they seem big and overpowering. But again, it's the same advice. Give it time. See what the fine print is. You will find there is someone who is actually really supportive for you. I see a bird flying, so your freedom. There's movement. You need to move away from certain people. Okay. I see something that looks like a series of steps, like a kind of across a from one side of a mountain to another, like a kind of a stepping bridge. It's like a bridge, but it's more sort of segmented than that. Like I think that, and there are 3 key steps. So there are 3 key aspects of this that you need to look at. 3 key things that you need to go through meticulously. So if it was that you had a creative project and you're trying to work out who could you trust to take that forward, you need to have a look at what maybe are the material outcomes of this, what's the distribution of it, and what is the split of sort of like money up front and money that you would get, for instance. Like there's 3 things. Something about the rule of 3 here too. I also think because we saw the witchy energy and the rule of 3, you don't have to be concerned about those that you can't trust because in a sense karma is going to look after them, the rule of 3. You just have to stay pure to what you're doing. And then I see a ship with very, very billowing sails. There is movement. You will move towards what you want. The crystal ball reader says you will move towards what you want. Don't be too concerned about this. Just take the time that's necessary. And if you think about a ship sailing, like voyages by sea, take a bit of time. And you need to pay a lot of attention to the weather, to the direction you're going in, to what the stars are saying, all of that kind of thing. So in terms of navigation. So I think that's a good analogy. So the crystal ball reader also says, I have tokens. Let's see what the tokens have to say to you. Oops. So let's look at that one first because it jumped out. We have a kettle boiling. Something's coming to the boil. Something's getting ready to happen. It could be if you picked up that there's something that you can't trust, it's getting to the point that's coming to the boil and you'll be dealing with it. Otherwise, something that you're meant to bring into being, it's coming to that point. That's why you have to be very, very, very clear. We have somebody who is looking at the road that they choose to be on. So I think this is like you've got to decide to be on the road that's the right road and to navigate in the way that you want it to be. We have a crown. You're meant to be the king or queen of this for what you do. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there aren't other people who are important to what's going on who are also important, but your sovereignty is important in this, and you're meant to be a star with the stars. And your astrology probably would give you a good idea. We are going to talk to an astrologer energy in this, so the stars will guide you as well. Cards, yeah, and divination. So you're probably very good at divination yourself, seeing what, and like keeping your cards up your sleeve as well, I think. It's like, play your cards at the right time. Every single one of these has had the bat, which is death and rebirth. So it makes a lot of sense because the whole energy of this reading was to be going to a highly occulted group for the most important messages. So this is an initiation for every single one of the people who've come to these set of readings. There's an initiation. The old world is ending, a new world is starting. This is a time of initiation. I have what looks like a chair. I'm not sure what that is meant to symbolize, so we'll see. Time out, quiet time, stillness. Yeah, take the time. Be still. Be still, be observant. Don't rush anything. Time is of the essence in the sense that things are coming to the boil, but take the time that you need to fully assess it. And if you need, literally take time out, because that's looks like a sort of beach side, take a break, take a holiday. If that's the best way to step away from all of this and be able to really assess it by almost putting the clock to stop while you're on a break, that's a good idea to do that. And then we have a pen, what you write. You're writing your future here. So it's important. And what is in writing? Like what's the fine print, as I keep saying. That's very important in this message for you. Okay. So then we go to an astrologer to see what is the stars, since you're a stargazer here. What are the stars telling you? North Node in the 9th house in Sagittarius. So this says, it talks about create new beliefs. It's what is new, what is yours, what is specific to you rather than to other people. And you might need to shift your beliefs about something, but there is something new that you're bringing in, and you are very spiritual and you want the freedom to be spiritual with your North Node in the 9th house. So you're heading towards that. Also that you could teach or express yourself in a very broad terrain, travel and so forth. Very important. So, you might have a message that's meant to sort of reach out across the world. We have Uranus in the 9th house in Sagittarius. So Uranus and the North Node. Yeah, it's something new, something very different, something unique, something that is only you can do. It will get its audience, it will get its connections, but there's something only you can bring to this. Crisis of personal belief systems. There's something about belief. What you believed in, you need to be meticulous to make sure it's what you want it to be, but you're also meant to bring in new beliefs. For some of you, it may be that this companionship was fine, but you are now so different that you have to move on. We then have Aries rising, dynamic. Yeah, you're meant to act, you're meant to be seen, you're meant to be first at something. Aries is the first sign. So Aries rising wants to be first, wants to be seen, wants to be unique. There's a very big thing here. You can't do it if you're being sort of like held within a group. It's more you've got to sort of stand a bit separate to the group, but also be seen by the group. It's an interesting energy for you. And we have Pluto in the 6th house in Virgo. I analyze, highly self-aware. So this is good. You really know who you are. And that's going to be the jewel in the crown, because if you really understand who you are, what you're trying to bring into being, how you look at things and believe things differently, you'll be able to find the people that you do align with if you really just take the time to really pay attention to the signs around it. Okay, so then let's see. They say this is important. It's important for you to find out what your personal genius is, I think, and to separate out from those that would hold you back, compete with you and so forth, so that you can truly express something new. That's what this is all about. Let's get you 3 primordial powers, guardians, and see what gifts they have for you. Psyche, that makes sense. The different way of thinking, the pure intellect. There's a lot about bringing this into your mind and understanding it and thinking it through. Amenzu, that came up for one of the others. So it's interesting in this context. And Pangeo. The other thing about Psyche too that's interesting is that she is, as it says, psyche, psychology, self-aware, all of that kind of thing. But she's also connected to Ceres and to the earth, as is Pangeo. So it's interesting with stargazers, like connecting out with the cosmos and finding your place on earth. This is what part of this is about, who you are uniquely. But she's also she's about fertility and about life, and so is Amenzu. He's a moon god, about sensuality and sexuality. So for some of you, this may be about finding your soul family and your love, and you could literally be dealing with people who are trying to compete with you on that. That is a possibility. Otherwise, I think the creative energy here, and the capacity to bring in new beliefs and new ways of doing will bring in the right connections for you. Because Psyche, as I say, being a bit like Ceres, Pangeo is an earth god. So there's an earth energy here as well. And then the moon here, which is about sort of fertility and sort of a little bit of a trickster energy and a bit of fun. But the trickster energy also, be meticulous, be careful, because you could be tricked in this scenario. I think Pangeo is actually what the crystal ball reader thought when they saw a really big energy to support you. I think that's what this is. So I think that came up in this reading. The somebody big holding out their arms to sort of accept you and to support you. Yes, it did, because we have the Six of Pentacles. So that is a very strong protective influence for you about grounding what you want to create and making you be able to climb the mountain and know that you will be successful in the end. So let's see what gifts each bring. So what gift does Psyche bring to you? Interesting enough too, Psyche is married to, or is connected to Eros in terms of a love match. Not exactly the same as Amenzu, but Amenzu is more like that kind of erotic energy. So there is something here potentially for some of you about love. What is Psyche? What gift does Psyche bring you? Astral projection, out-of-body experience. So she can help you get to the higher order understanding about what's going on, separate out from this and get a perspective that gives you more information, lets you look at alternatives. Amenzu is the trickster, fertility, emotional energy. Brings indigo child, Delta generation. That's interesting. This came up for one of the others. Born between 1988 and 1998. You don't have to be born in that time. This just simply says that you have psychic abilities, and psychic abilities will help you. And Pangeo, the protector, I think, brings author, spiritual experience, guidance, and healing. I've been saying over and over, like if you had, like you were an author or you were trying to bring in something new way of thinking, new beliefs, all that kind of thing. There is a very important message that you, I think, are meant to bring out that only you can do. And finding the right companions, the right connections, rather than the ones that would compete with you, are going to be very, very important. So to finish off, the group come together and just say, let's tell you what magic you have as a result of this reading. Euonia, everything in perfect balance. Yeah. If you take this advice, you take things meticulously, you're very careful, you'll find the people that you're connected to, you'll find your voice, you'll be able to bring the new beliefs in, you will have the success, you'll climb the mountain, you'll find the love, whatever it is that you're looking for. But the only way that something can be in perfect balance is if it's meticulously, a bit like clockwork, it's meticulously put in play. So for you, the message is take your time, look at the details, don't trust until, it's like trust but verify, or don't trust until you can verify is maybe more the sort of energy here. You will find your people. You will have the success, but you do need to be aware of the importance of taking the time out and keeping a few of your cards up your sleeve. That's the message here for you. So I hope that resonates. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.